This is the word. So the next topic that we are going to talk about is an editorial for Media Matters for America called Can a Conservative Media Darling Win in 2016? It reads, for GOP national candidates, navigating the conservative media is kind of like NASA executing a gravitational slingshot. There's a hot, dense center of gravity that you want to get just close enough to so that your campaign rocket ship gets a boost in the right direction. Veer too far and you'll drift into the political void. Get too close and you'll crash hard onto planet Wingnut. This complicated act of political physics is becoming a defining characteristic of national Republican politics. Would-be candidates who don't hold elected office or otherwise lack a national platform turn to Fox News for exposure, and in the case of paid contributors, a paycheck. Of course, as Michelle Bachmann and Rick Santorum can attest, you can't be too cozy with the activist right either. Annika, do you agree with this assessment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because of the Tea Party, and we alluded to this in the last segment, it's especially the Republican Party is on its way to a split. I really think so. And to be honest, I hope to God that is the case.
I agree. I agree that these Republicans will have to turn to Fox News. And yes, I do agree with Anakin about with the maybe possibly splitting of the Republican Party, and I hope this is true for the Democratic Party as well. I hope at some point we would have to have, four parties, and that way it won't be based on the two-party system. So
yeah.
And it's not Star Wars, it's Annika, not Anakin. But thank you. It would be cool to be a Jedi.
Yes, I do realize. I realize that.
I was going to say, did he just call you Anakin?
I was just trying to do it nicely.
Anakin.
It would be cool to be a Jedi.
Anakin, as the article cites as the reason, it mentions Michelle Bachmann and Rick Santorum. Is this the reason that they could not find success in the primary as they veered way too close to this hot center?
I think with Bachmann, absolutely. Santorum did a little better. But, if you remember, a few elections ago, there was good old Howard Dean with his screen, and that was the screen that tanked his presidential bid.
Yeah.
Because everybody thought he was a whack job.
Well, neither of them, while you can say that Rick Perry in the Republican primary sort of had his scream moment where he really looked like an idiot at the debates and he couldn't remember even the institutions of government that he wanted to abolish, neither Michelle Bachmann nor Rick Santorum really had those one moments. They just had degraded reputations because they were seen as so right-wing.
You get that. Walter Mondale, this is a long time ago, I'm dating myself, but he was, running for vice president. He fell asleep
Oh, my God.
during a debate.
Oh, God.
So,
And, Walter Mondale is one of my all-time favorite politicians, but that is just sad.
that really is, that's pitiful, Jacob.
That's awful.
He fell asleep during a vice presidential debate. The thing only lasts an hour. You can't stay awake.
Oh,
I mean, that's one of the four most important phase of your political career.
But this editorial continues saying, presidential candidates who channel the conservative blogosphere and poach talking points from Fox News quickly run into trouble. With that in mind, we turn to Senator Ted Cruz, somebody who we've talked on this program about before, whose trip to Iowa last week stoked a round of 2016 speculation. Cruz is a different matter from the likes of Romney. Conservative activists love the junior senator already. He's from Texas, and he's now a Fox News favorite. Just this year alone, he's been on Hannity 5 times. Cruz's questioning of Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, at one point, he asked Hagel why he had described an Israeli strike on Hezbollah as a sickening slaughter. This was actually a distortion of Hagel's actual 2006 statement on the Israel-Hezbollah conflict, in which he said the sickening slaughter on both sides must end. So the distorted quote first appeared in the Weekly Standard.
I personally cannot stand Cruz.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
I think he's way too far right for my taste.
Well, I mean...
He's radical. And Fox News has gone pretty radical. It's gone very far right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why. Oh, you know, it's like, look, Marco Rubio. Rubio was a good early contender until he had to reach over to that glass of water, and no one would in with that.
But I don't think that's the main issue of why he's fallen from kind of being a Republican darling, as they say. I think really what it...
Saturday Night Live
No.
makes fun of it.
Well,
People
okay,
don't
Saturday
even know
Night
who he
Live
is.
can parody, up to its gills. The fact of the matter is that Saturday Night Live is not a barometer for Republican thought and opinion. And what I think, if you look at the conservative media, what really made them turn away from Marco Rubio was his support of immigration reform. It's not some water bottle thing.
No, that is part of it.
No, I think that is most of it.
People who didn't even know who he was and still don't know anything about him. The only thing that they might know is, oh yeah, that's the guy they made fun of on Saturday Night Live, so he's got to be a joke.
But that is not his audience for the Republican primary. I think we have to stop looking at Saturday Night Live as actual reflection of, political opinion. Because you would consider yourself a moderate Republican, correct?
Absolutely.
So my mother is actually, she identifies as a supporter of the Tea Party. She's very conservative. And I was having a conversation with her today.
Your mother is Tea Party?
Yes, my mother is Tea Party. And...
Okay.
What?
I didn't realize. Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My parents are both fairly, my mother's very conservative, my father's fairly conservative. She was supporting the Tea Party back in she didn't go to Tea Parties, but, she supported those candidates. I was having this...
though, not now, right?
Well, no. I mean, if you would ask her today if she has a favorable view of the Tea Party, she'd say absolutely.
Oh.
I've invited her on this program multiple times, but all I can tell you is what she's told me, and, she is that conservative. But I was having this chat with her at dinner tonight, and I brought up Chris Christie. And, from her point of view, among hardcore conservatives, there is no enthusiasm for Chris Christie.
I think the Republicans are becoming split because of the Tea Party faction. And I think that you're going to have the absolute right, which is the Tea Party faction, and you're going to have a new, I consider improved, Republican Party that are going to be more moderate.
Okay. That's very valid. Well, let's continue with this editorial. It says, so if Cruz is indeed considering a run for the presidency in 2016, what impact would his coziness with what they call the fever swamp have? The Daily Beast's Michael Tomasky sees in Cruz a politician who takes the wildest Yahoo positions, arguably of any prominent politician in America, but is also something of an intellectual, and the combined effect of the two could win him the Republican nomination and sink him in the general election. The previous two Republican nominees were at times actively hated.
I think that's true. I do not think they were actively hated.
But they got the party nod regardless. Thoughts on this?
I wouldn't say large, no.
I absolutely. And I would bring up a few points in defense of that. Number one, the fact that we had these flavor of the month candidates that were able to, because Romney had such a weak popularity among the conservative base, they were able to steal the spotlight consecutively, one after another, and then in the end, Rick Santorum was able to placate and court that audience for a long, long time.
No, look at the Democrats. Look at the Democrats with Obama's first term. Okay? You had Dean. You had Hillary. You had Obama. There were quite a few others. I'm just not, I don't remember because I didn't pay that much attention because I didn't like any of them.
On a previous show when we were talking about primaries, and I don't have the exact quote, but you said that, the Republican primaries are more interesting because you really don't know what's going to happen. It's up in the air. With Democratic primaries, they pretty much know who they're going to lock in at the beginning. Did you?
Right, because they do it right at the end.
Do you
But
wait?
it's
That's not what
just
you were
the-
saying.
Wait. But that's from the time when they decide to throw a bit. I forgot the word.
Okay. So moving on in this editorial, it says conservatives rage at Washington generally, and Obama specifically may have some superficial appeal to voters, but without a compelling policy agenda, they are unlikely to get over the electoral hump. For the Republican hopefuls looking forward into the primary, is, kind of being anti-Obama, is that enough? Moving on, this says Marco Rubio is getting beaten up by the online right for his efforts to pass comprehensive immigration reform, though he appears to be pivoting hard on other issues to regain their favor. Do you think conservatives will favor, Ted Cruz as opposed to Marco Rubio? Because Ted Cruz is harder on immigration. Do you think that's going to appeal more, or is there a different candidate who will catch their eye from your perspective?
It's a little too early to say. Some people think of Republicans just as Tea Party.
Yeah, that's true.
When you hear Republican, I'm not saying you. When somebody hears Republican, they can automatically only think of Tea Party.
True. Yeah, sure.
Because they never really understood. They never really understood what a Republican was.
Well,
but once they hear a Republican speak who's a moderate, who's nothing like a Tea Party candidate, I think that may bring more people into the fold. I think
if somebody was born yesterday, that argument holds. But the thing is, the Tea Party hasn't been around that long. So I think people understood.
No, they have not been around that long, but they've changed very radically, very quickly.
Yeah, but I don't think I don't think there are some people who just were alerted to the Republican Party by the Tea Party for the first time at this point. Anything else that you guys would like to say on this topic before we take a break?
I think we've covered it.
Oh, one more thing. So when you were talking about Tea Party, I think people will be wondering exactly what you meant. You used the word crazy. What do you mean by that in characterizing the Tea Party as crazy?
I mean, they are so radical of a group at this point. They started out as more libertarian and wanting to reform the Republican Party to take away some of the extraneous facts, let's call it, in government, and kind of pare it down and eliminate the redundancies, things like that. But what the Tea Party has evolved into is an absolute radical Christianized, strongly Christianized group that, they're just absolutely radical.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a sense of reality anymore.
Okay.
And what the people really want. I honestly, Bachman is a perfect example of this.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no concept of reality at this point.
And we will end that segment on this note. When we return from the break, we will discuss our final topic, which is magic mushrooms, as they are called, and their possible positive health effects, We'll be back in a second.